Okay, so for this week, our discussion, our reading and videos were about publication. So the discussion is about publications. The first question says, why do you want to publish an article? What are your main goals? Does anybody want to start?
I mean, I
Um,
don't know if I really would want to publish. And I think that's part of understanding who we are, right, as educators or leaders. If I wanted to publish an article, it's like the readings had said, and even the videos, find something that you're passionate about because being able to write about the passion is going to at least take you a place down a positive road rather than having to really think about and engage yourself in your own writing.
Yeah, that it being frustrating.
Mhm.
Yes, I was thinking about the questions yesterday and I felt the same way yesterday. Sarah was like, do I actually want to publish anything?
I've published a couple of articles in Edutopia in the last couple of years. I think it was last year I did it. And I mean, my main goal for that was just I had an idea and I just wanted to write and share it. And they accepted my proposal. So I was just like, awesome, this is great. But it was mainly just to share my ideas. It was about one was about like creation using Seesaw and Flipgrid and in the classroom, and the other one was about Innovation Day on my campus that we had put together. And just it was fun to just share it. Andrew got paid $100 an article.
Hey, that's
Oh,
cool.
that's cool.
Yeah. So that was kind of a nice little perk to it.
I feel like if I was to publish an article, my goal would just be to share something I'm passionate about. Also to like, I'm not gonna
Mhm.
lie, like to build my resume personally, Like I feel like if
Mhm.
I'm a published author and I'm doing those types of things, then that, speaks on where I'm at with leadership and giving back to other people. So I
Okay.
guess contributing to my field.
Like that
Mhm.
would be a goal, being able to contribute something that's actually meaningful since everything comes out and it's just a lot all the time. And when you read some of the articles, it's the same stuff being said by a different person in a different zip code.
All right, with different vocabulary.
Yes.
And
Okay,
I love
so
the repackaging.
the second
Yes.
question says, what fears or challenges might prevent someone from pursuing publication and how could they be addressed?
So fears is just like not wanting, it's like not being able to get your point across and it makes sense to everybody, I think. And then like a challenge would be just being passionate enough about the subject to want to create a whole article about how something can be rewarding in the education field.
Mhm.
How to fix it? I don't know.
Keep trucking
Yeah.
through.
It's like, I
I,
guess,
I'm
get comfortable with the uncomfortable and just try it.
Yeah.
yeah,
I
just
think
jump in.
definitely, sorry, I think definitely one of the challenges would be like looking at the journals that you're going to publish to and making them have, right? It said like some of them have certain word limits or like you have to have this or you have to have that. Like if I'm going to write in public, make my work public, like I want to be able to be me and not necessarily constrain myself to who they are. Like I get it, right? There's lots of factors that go into play, but
Mhm.
we do things all the time that are amazing in classrooms and as leaders. And to be able to share that
Mhm.
out, why would I want to constrict myself? So it's like, even with some of the other work that we've done in these classes, having to do a word limit is very hard for a person like me. I like to just keep going and share. But when I have to constrict myself, it makes it all that more challenging, and it even like takes away from the story or takes away from the passion or takes away from the learning. So like how would you go about constraining yourself enough to fit into what they're looking for, but still provide all of those components?
True.
I think that's
I
definitely a challenge.
I feel like that's for sure, like if I had to pick something, I would say something very similar because one, just picking out a journal in general was overwhelming too. I'm still like, that's the one thing for this first assignment that is like hanging me up is like, where might you want to publish? Or I don't know. There's a million of them out there. And then you look at them and you're like, well, I don't know. And I used a couple of the sites that said like it kind of had a finder for you. I didn't really like them though. I didn't feel like they were really like helping me overcome that in any way. So I don't know. I the journals are definitely overwhelming, and then also then now I have constraints that I have to follow and what do I have to do, and there's a layout, and um so it's one, I don't even know where I want to publish, and two, like then you have to follow all those things like Sarah said. So that's definitely like what's hanging me up in this assignment is like I don't even begin to know where I would want to at all. At all.
Lisa, when
Right.
you did your stuff in the last couple of years, like were those constraints still like something that you had to work through?
So yes, Edutopia has a word limit, and like my first proposal I submitted was about creation versus consumption. And they came back and they were like, we like this topic, but we kind of want to go in a different direction. Can you just talk to us about like creation, like how you would create in the classroom? And so I kind of had to switch I already had my article written, ready to go. And I had to like switch the entire thing and rewrite it from a different angle. But they have editors that like help you along the way, that I sent it in. I was like, okay. And we would, talk through and like, okay, they like this part, but I like this part. And we kind of collaborated till it was an article that they liked and I liked, that I still was like, okay, yeah, this works. Um, the other one for Innovation Day was that one really actually was kind of like, oh man, because like you're saying, I put in all of this stuff. I put links into like Google Forms. I put links into the Google Slide so you could see, my work from the Innovation Day to get ideas and all the stuff. And they were like, we can't put any of that in. It doesn't have any links like that, so they had to take all that out. So I was just like, well, it's not even like the heart of everything I was sharing. So that part was a little bit like womp womp. um so it was a little frustrating, and I just had to you just kind of have to accept that it's not going to be like you said. It's going to kind of be twisted and pulled and turned around and to what they also want. um, but you do get to work a little bit with the editors to kind of, form it to what you like as well.
How did you even decide where you wanted to go through in the first place?
Um, well, actually, I have a coordinator, a curriculum coordinator that I had worked with as on a coaching team before she became a coordinator, and she started writing for Edutopia, and I had written for a couple of other another blog before that didn't pay, and I didn't know they paid either though at the time. But I'd written for another blog and they didn't do anything. They weren't accepting any proposals anymore. So I was just like, I have this idea and I just want to share it. So I went to Edutopia because that's where she had published articles from. And so I just kind of picked it. And I had followed them on Twitter. And so I saw a lot of their articles and kind of was like, okay, this is a good vibe. I like what I'm reading and they have good ideas. So I just thought I would share to them. And it's kind of how I picked it. I just kind of landed on it because a friend was doing writing for them too. But I will say one of the fears for writing for me is kind of like that. Like Monique was saying, like people saying the same thing, just slightly different. And a lot of times I have ideas, but I'm like, I mean, it's already been said though. So like, how do I write that when it's already out there? I don't want to write something that's been said and repackaged, or like I'm coming up with some brilliant idea when really it's already been said.
Yeah.
That's that's one of my fears on that.
So do you think that Edutopia is one of the easier journals to publish for?
I I think so. They accepted mine. So
I'm like, I've seen some of your work, Lisa. You're quite brilliant. I'm just gonna point that out.
you've seen some of my work?
Not on Edutopia, but like in all the
Oh,
classes, because we've been in some of the same
oh,
classes since the beginning.
oh, okay. I was like, oh,
So on the assignment that's coming up, are you
yeah.
planning on Edutopia as your like potential?
Yeah, I was just going to use Edutopia again. I was like, I'm comfortable with it. It literally, you just fill out I think it was a Google form. I can't remember, but you literally just fill out something and you put in your proposal. You have it like they want an outline. And if you go to their website, it literally tells you like step by step what to do. And so then you just give them your outline. They'll reach out to you and tell you, okay, cool. One of the editors reaches out to you and gives you all the things that you need to do and talks to you about it and everything. And then you fill out like you have to fill out some little document along the way, but it was really easy.
Okay.
Good. I like their vibe. Just for me, like they are something I would actually read. Some of these other journals, I'm like, I wouldn't read that. It's too
Yeah.
much. Like just on my own time, I'm not gonna read that. Edutopia ones, I would do.
Okay. I have
Mhm.
an answer from Lori in the group me. She said, fear of being judged, having the confidence to put your work out there is hard because it will be judged. That can be very uncomfortable. So I believe she went
Oh,
back to the first question. No, she answered the
yeah,
second question.
yeah.
But that's so
I
real. Like, and I feel like that's a good point to hit because when you are being judged on something that you write or, promote, like in that format, you don't know who's judging you. It's just, you're completely being blindsided. It's not anything you can control. It's not anything that then you can change. It's like, how do you even who is reading your article and being like, oh, well, I already knew that, or oh, this didn't help me. Like, why did I go to that? Like, you don't even have that access point, I feel, unless there's some back workaround that I am not familiar with. Um, Being judged is, one of those things that although us as educators do all the time, right? We're evaluated, that's being judged, but at least we get the comments presented to us and then we make the changes based on what those comments or what that discussion lies in. But with something like this, you don't have any of that. So being judged is a huge fear. I completely agree with her.
mhm.
Yeah.
And I think as educators, we're such like people pleasers and like wanting to be like do the best we possibly can. And so to know like once you put it out there, it's like you just have to like make peace with it because yeah, you could be judged and it's scary.
Oof. Okay. I'm like, I don't know
All right.
about this.
So next question, what are the first steps to take when considering publishing sorry, an article in a journal? I know like personally working on this assignment, the first step I took was like, what the heck do I even want to write about? And I did use like the the links to look at like, what are things that are considered most important right now, but then also had to reflect on like how does that tie in for me and my campus. Right now, like I feel like AI is such a big deal But unfortunately, my district is so behind that curve. Right now, our teachers do not even have access to AI tools. It's blocked for them.
Y'all can't use
Um,
Copilot?
Oh,
I'm sorry.
so we do have Copilot. Um, certain built-in features like from Microsoft and from Google are actually, you know what? I think Gemini is blocked for them. Copilot is not. Everything else is though. So they're using workarounds if they're using it at all. I'm our campus tech, so it's not locked for me because I'm also on the AI committee that's test driving like what is this useful for? Um, so I feel like I definitely doing something like that would just be ingenuine for my campus purposes at all.
Yeah.
Just as it stands right now. So it definitely was like looking at what's important right now in the field of education, but also what's genuine for me to write about.
mhm.
And so, I mean, I guess I
I
could
don't
write
know. I feel
about
like you
how
could.
like not having those things, putting us behind that learning curve is
Mhm, mhm.
really messing some stuff up,
Y-
man.
I don't know though. You could also approach it of like taking the slow approach because things are so fast paced with AI right now that, are we really looking at like the long term ramifications and the different ways? And so if your district is actually kind of taking a slower approach, you could end up with a program that is like stronger and more, student centered than just kind of throwing everything out there to teachers and students and everybody's using it, some are using it really amazing ways and some aren't using it the best way possible. And so your district taking a slower approach, that's also a way you could, kind of talk about it, is that you're taking the time to really ensure that it's, intentional
Appropriately
in
implemented.
use.
Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah.
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 Because
Because
I know we're,
and because I know at my campus, um, everyone, well, for the whole district, everyone has access to pretty much everything except for Chat GPT and I think Pop AI. And Pop AI is just something that I use myself because it actually just works through articles that are super long and condenses them to help you figure out what you actually need to learn from what you are supposed to be reading. Um, but it has hindered some of the children in the classroom because they try to use those things to answer questions on exams.
uh-huh. Hey, these kids are smart too. They will find all the workarounds.
That's
I have,
definitely that's our district's main concern is cheating. And our district technologist said, you're right, because they're not doing it now. And the board was like,
right. Lori
they'll find a
typed
way.
an answer. She said you have to consider the topic and goals first and try to make sure it's something reachable. Choose the right journal for your field and check author guidelines. Then you prepare your manuscript and conduct a thorough review of your article. I feel like she already knows what she wants to talk about.
She does not. We've been texting about it.
I
Oh,
was gonna
really?
say she's ahead of the game if she already knows what she's gonna write about. Like I feel like I have so many things swirling in around my head between this class and the other. Like, what are we looking at? I definitely want to make it much more relevant into like what's happening in my classroom, just because that's gonna make it easier for me to write. Um,
And you're going to have more to write it out. It's going to be more genuine if it's something that you are doing.
oh, right, absolutely. And I mean, that's the biggest thing for me. I'm someone that, if isn't passionate enough about the whole piece and the whole work of it, then it really doesn't mean much to me. And I don't want to spread the word of something that doesn't mean much to me out there. Um, as you're all aware, I'm a student from Illinois, so your Texas talk it still helps me. But some of it I'm like, wait, what? Um, it in my land over here, my district is a one-to-one iPad district and has been for a number of years. And one of the things that definitely has sparked my interest is how to best get my special education students to test best, or work best. And so I have implemented the ability for them to use um, music while they work and while they test as like an outside source. They just plug in their headphones and then they can listen to it. And that's kind of been very innovative for a lot of my sped students, especially those that are diagnosed with an autism spectrum. So I feel like that might be one thing that I would go down a path with. Um, but Lisa, like you said, like I'm very creative and you've used all these different platforms, and I continue to use different platforms that work for the students and especially special education. And it's like, how do I present that out and share it? Because not everyone has platforms that are the same as mine. But at least like with the music component, right? Anybody can go into whatever device they have and find music, that then helps and bridges those missing connections in between work.
Have you ever thought about using AI programs that write music like for content purposes? So like for example, let's say like what age are your kids?
I work with fifth graders.
Okay, so let's say like we're talking like Rock Cycle or something like that. You can go into these AI programs and have them write songs using the vocabulary and using your like learning objectives. And so like music, like you said, music sits different with kids, especially on the autism spectrum. And so maybe using it for the academic purpose too might make it stick. So that could be something even like for the research project for the other class that you might maybe want to consider, since you're already doing that music thing. But now how can using it to learn the academic content help?
Yeah, that's
Mhm.
cool.
Kind of like the next step. Like I think I would be super interested in reading an article about using music with your special education students and like what are the outcomes with that. That I think that would be a great article to read. And then yeah, I think like what Ashley said, it's kind of like the next step in the research part would be like, can you use it with the content to see how that sticks?
Yeah,
There
no,
you
that's a
go.
great
We got
idea.
your topics for you. You're
Thank
good. You're set
you.
now.
Because my only concern about music during testing is that a lot of, because I also teach, I teach resource. A lot of the children will want to use it during state testing, and in Texas, that is impossible. You can't
Really?
have anything playing, any type of extra noise, no
E-
extra devices unless they're being used for testing in that testing room.
Even if it's
Mhm.
provided, like, because I have special education, right? We have IEPs, and so like it's written in their accommodation list and then it's allowed.
It's
No.
not a Texas allowable accommodation.
So like they could have that as a classroom accommodation, but for
Mhm.
testing, it's not an allowable accommodation for state testing.
Wow.
Because I do that during class. I let them play music as long as they have headphones on, because a lot of the music that they play has a lot of cursing.
Oh,
But like when it comes to testing, they know it has to be completely quiet. You can have anything else playing. And to have them test in the most authentic way, even in classroom testing, I actually lock their devices. And I'm the only one on my campus that knows how to do it currently because the program is kind of finicky. Um, and it gets them in the mindset of this is actually really serious and I can get through this without without having to need something playing in my ears, because they also have the text to speech, because a lot of my students aren't able to read fluently
right,
or effectively.
right. The music that we use, though, we only allow our students to use non-lyrical music, so
Mhm.
it's not necessarily something that's going to have them, speak or sing something outright. Um, but yeah, that's very interesting. And I think that's a piece that could be included in the research, right? Is like which states allow this and why, or which states don't allow this and why not, and to pursue something, just to show justification as to what works and what doesn't, and to see if that then would change. I mean, there's a whole slew of avenues that music plays a role in and that has benefited students along the way, making it known and suggested that it's necessary or it's useful with that research behind it, I think would or could possibly, right, promote a change in law or whatever that is
Yeah.
necessary for state testing.
That's
Okay,
true.
we
It
have
could.
about 7 minutes before it wants me to pay for extra time, which I don't particularly want to do. So
Okay, let's move on.
I think we kind of already talked about choosing a topic, just kind of genuinely without actually posing the question, because we all talked about topics that we wanted
Yes,
to.
Lori did post something. She said to choose a topic, you need to identify your interest and expertise in different fields, then review existing articles to find gaps and unresolved questions. You need to ensure your topic is relevant to academic priorities while being feasible given your available resources, which is basically all of the stuff that we have been saying in a roundabout way. It's just more concise.
Yeah, she says it very professionally. Like,
She
has
does.
has she done this before?
Right.
It wouldn't
I know
surprise
every
me
answer is
knowing Lori.
very.
So how do I choose the right journal for my article? I feel like we kind of already talked about that. Do y'all want to
Yeah.
skip that question?
But I do know in
Yeah.
the assignment that we do have to turn in, I think we have to choose 3 different journals total. So the
Mhm.
question would be like, how would we choose one of the other ones? I guess it would just be based on if we can find something, a journal that fits what we're trying
Mhm.
to say.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, we don't have to commit to those. It's just I might want to go here. I think. All right,
Gotcha.
what are the benefits and challenges of publishing in open access journals?
So from what I remember, open access journals are the journals where more people have availability to read. It's more openly readable, but they're more restrictive in what you can publish. Is that what it is?
I think it just kind of depends on the journal itself. On that. For me, I feel like that's where I would want to publish because I don't know, I just don't feel like myself as a writer that I would want to put it into something that's so like whether it's subscription based or whatever the program is. I feel like if I'm going to put the information out there, I want to put the information out there.
That's how
Lori
it kind of feels
said-
too.
Lori says at the very bottom of her response, she goes, personally, I would not be paying for my article to be published. So I would be looking for a free journal to publish it in. And I completely agree. Like, if I'm
Yeah,
going to be
Mhm.
sharing my work, I'm not going to pay for me to share my work. Like, my work is
Yeah.
important.
right. It's not like I'm
Yeah.
trying to write a book and I'm trying to make money off of the book. This is a journal that is supposed to be peer reviewed. So you want as much review of it as you can possibly get, and having to pay $1,500 to get it published is ridiculous.
Yeah, and I don't
I
want to like go through a grant either to do that. I just want to
Right.
put it out
Yeah.
there.
There was on Twitter there was a tweet from I cannot remember who it was, but it was this group of people that were writing a book, right? And so you could submit parts of the book that you wanted. Like you could pick a chapter and submit pieces, and you could potentially get it published in that book. And I was like, well, this is really cool. I'd love to do that. So I was like looking into it, and then when you got to the end, you had to pay. $60 per like entry. It's like, why am I paying you? Like, I'm giving you my work and paying you to take it. I found it to be very weird.
I
And I
think
was
I
just
got
like,
into the
I will
wrong
not be paying
business.
for it. Yeah, right? I'm like, it's so weird though. It's like the
Agree.
idea of paying someone to take your work is weird to me.
I agree.
What's our
I
time?
agree. We have 2 minutes.
Oh, geez.
So what steps are involved
Okay.
in submitting an article to a journal? Are there common pitfalls to avoid? We kind of already talked about steps, but I guess common pitfalls to avoid. I think the biggest thing that's talked about like in the readings is not adhering to the journal specifications, because that can just get it kicked back overall where you're not even asked to edit, but you didn't follow their specifications or their rules for topics and research. That's kind of what I saw as the biggest pitfall to avoid from the readings. I personally never published, so I don't really know what other, from a personal
I could see that,
perspective.
I could see that too. I think that would be the biggest, is just like whenever submitting to the Edutopia, if I didn't have the right layout of what they wanted exactly, it'd be kicked back. I wouldn't have, just
Yeah.
following making sure you know what all the specifications are that you need to do. It could get tricky.
All right. Last thing from Lori, it
And
says open access journals give you more opportunities for feedback and comments as they are free to review. However, because they are free, they may not be sourced by a more intentional audience.
Yeah.
she's got good answers.
She does.
All right, we have less than a minute, so you want to
Okay.
kind of wrap it up with benefits of publishing in a peer-reviewed journal. And we kind of already talked about that, but that means my work has been reviewed and reviewed and reviewed, and then I'm not going to have something out there with my name on it that looks silly because I missed a mistake. It went through multiple different screens, if you will.
Before it was actually published. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we feel good about this. Yes.
Yes.
I will
Yeah.
submit it for everybody, and
Yay.
and then I'll put everybody's names. That's what I'm supposed to do, right?
I believe so.